What's up guys, it's Lily May and welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you are new. So I'm super excited for today's video because I'm going to be talking about a topic that I've been thinking about for a while and that is very near and dear to my heart, and it is your mind becomes what it feeds on. So without further ado, let's get straight on into the video. Okay, your mind becomes what it feeds on. So we're going to be talking about today what we see, what we hear, and what we consume, and how that affects our minds negatively, which then can affect our relationship with God. This is something that I've always been super interested in, and something that I've always just been thinking about and battling, and honestly something that I've had to learn and work through a lot myself. It's something that my family and I always talk about. So I'm super excited to share with you guys on your mind becomes what it feeds on. So my first point I want to talk about is what we see. I've got a bunch of notes here, by the way, because I've done extra research on this topic, so I'm really excited for it. Okay. Need a drink of water. I'm going to first talk about what we see. So in what we see, we have what we look at, what we watch, and what we read. Plant seeds in our minds, which make us think that this is how we should be living. So, for example, the things that can plant negative seeds in our minds are movies and TV shows that normalize sin. So, not every show is bad. I love a good TV show. I love a good movie. I love movies and shows. Like, I'm not saying not to watch movies and TV shows. But I have realized since becoming so consumed and loving TV and shows and movies, especially in today's day and age, like this is like movies and shows are like the most popular thing. I have realized though that not everything that entertains me is spiritually neutral. So not everything that entertains us is spiritually healthy and neutral. So when you constantly watch things that normalize sin, such as gossip, sleeping around, revenge, or pride, it slowly stops shocking you. And this is something that I researched about that I found crazy. I found this quote and it says, when something stops shocking you, it starts shaping you. So when you're watching something and you see, say, sleeping around, or when you see lots of gossip, when you see lots of revenge and evil, and it stops shocking you, it stops making you go like, oh my gosh, what? Or, oh, that's so wrong. When it stops shocking you, it actually starts shaping you when you don't even realize. So often those things are now going to start being like, oh, that's normal. Oh, that's okay to live. Or, oh, I can do that. Or, oh, yeah, that's cool. I'll do that too. Oh, they've done that. Look at what happened. They seem fine. I'll do that too. And it starts shaping your mind without even realizing it, because it's not shocking you anymore. You just think it's normal. And that is what I find crazy about that. And so with this, what I suggest is asking yourself the question, does what I'm watching draw me closer to Jesus, or does it numb me to him? Another thing with what we see is social media. I talk about this a lot in a lot of my videos in comparison. Social media portrays so many happy lives, perfect bodies, you know, you name it. And you're going to start, if you're constantly scrolling on social media, you'll start doubting that your life is even good enough. And what you see is better than how your life is. What you consume and what you see, you're like, oh, they have a better life than me, I'm worthless. Oh, you have this, they've got a better body, I'm clearly not. So I clearly don't mean anything. So you're going to start comparing your life without even realizing. And you're going to start negatively thinking about your life and thinking that, you know, you don't have a good life, when really what they're portraying is fake. And so that's going to start shaping how you live your life. You're going to start thinking negatively about yourself, and you're going to start that's going to start affecting your life. Honestly, guys, when you have negative thoughts about yourself and your life, you start living in those thoughts and you start living in those mindsets and patterns, and it affects how you do things every day. And the next thing I want to talk about is reading. Especially in today's day and age, books are coming back, and I had no idea, because I've only just been a reader in the last couple of years, I had no idea that books could be filled with such explicit content as what some of them are. And so what we read fills our minds. Also, a lot of like books have a lot of evil things in it, and that's going to start consuming your mind, and you're going to start having negative mindsets, and it's going to draw you away from Jesus and not point you closer to him. So actually, a Bible verse I want to leave you with in this section is, the eye is the lamp of the body, and that's from Matthew 6:22-23. So remember, whenever you're watching shows, whenever you're reading books, or whenever you're scrolling social media, and you start having negative thoughts or negative mindsets, or you're noticing obsessiveness over things, or you're not getting shocked by what you're seeing because it's becoming normal, ask yourself the question, is what I'm watching right now, or what I'm reading right now, or what I'm consuming right now pointing me to Jesus, or is it making me numb to him? Okay, point 2, what we hear. So in Romans 10 verse 17, it says, faith comes by hearing. Is this building your faith, or is it feeding your flesh? Is a question that I often ask myself quite a lot. Words shape our beliefs, and what we hear is what encourages us to believe the things we do. If you follow someone on social media, an influencer or YouTube or something, and you really look up to them and you love the content that they post, you're going to start hearing the things that they believe in and what they say, and that's going to shape how you believe and what you think. And honestly, words and what we hear and how people live their lives shape how our beliefs and what we believe. Our parents, for example, shape our faith and our lives. Well, my parents shaped my faith from when I was little, and that's the reason why I knew about God. So you really do, what you hear really does impact your beliefs. So it's so important that what we're hearing is godly stuff, not worldly stuff. When we hear some things being repeated, so repetition, it builds our mindset, and it starts becoming how we view things and how we believe things. Are we following our ears with truth, or are we filling, our ears with truth or noise, is a question that we have to ask ourselves. Is what we're filling our ears with just noise of the world, noise, negative noises of what people believe, or is it actually truth, which is Jesus? So often things that we hear come through music. We don't realize the power of music, you guys. Do you know that there are so many artists that we listen to today that have come out and said that they're self-proclaimed witches, that have come out and said that they're doing dark magic over the songs, that they've come out and said that they were doing false God prayers. Well, they're not of God, but they were doing prayers over their songs which point to demonic things. And we're listening to that, and that's consuming like our mindsets and what we believe. So I love music personally. It lifts me up, it motivates me, and it sometimes helps me process the things that I'm going through in life, because I feel like music is such a special way that people pour their hearts into a song. However, if we're constantly listening to songs that glorify selfishness, bitterness, unhealthy relationships, depression, heartbreak, inappropriate messages, if we're constantly listening to those sorts of songs, our hearts start to reflect this without even realizing. We're going to come into a relationship with a negative view because it's what we've listened to, guys. Even if we don't intend to, it's going to be in our hearts and in our heads, and that's how we're going to process things and hear things and do things. It all comes from what we're consuming in our mind. Often listening to sad songs, you leave feeling depressed. Like, words and songs and music have power. It really does. So it's so important to I'm not telling you guys to isolate the music you listen to straight away, get rid of it all, but replace some of the songs that you're listening to with worship music. Actually do research into the artists that you're listening to and see if what they're doing is right and what their beliefs are. If they're, for example, what I've been hearing, self-proclaimed witches, like things like that, because honestly, like, that's going to create such a blockage without even knowing, without you even realizing in your heart and in your mind. And it's going to, honestly, it's a gateway for the enemy to come in, and we don't want that. Another thing when it comes to what you hear is gossip. So even the voices around us matter. Listening to gossip or negative talk is not going to just pass the time. It actually trains our minds to focus on others' faults instead of God's goodness. We're going to also be having negative mindsets about people that we don't even know if we're constantly involving ourselves with gossip. This has been a big one for me, I'm not going to lie, about trying to break. When I was in school especially, now that I'm out of school, it's a lot easier. But the voices around us matter, they really do. And what we're listening and how people are talking is really going to affect us, and what we hear is really going to start to shape how we view other people. But it's also going to be more that we're focusing on everyone else around us and not God, and not us and God, not our relationship with God, not ourselves. We're not going to realize our faults because we're focusing on everyone else's. Another one is podcasts and voices that we allow to influence us. So if every influencer you listen to is cynical and involved more on themselves and focused more on themselves and their worldly desires than God, you'll soon start to realize that that's the way you want to live life, and that's the way you think you should live life, and that's how you'll start living. And that's a pretty dark place to be in, I would say. And so that's why it's so important, who are we allowing to influence us? Is who are influencing us and letting influence us godly people, or are they cynical people that focus on themselves and have actually really wrong ideas and beliefs of the world that are pretty dark? And then what we consume affects us mentally and spiritually. So going beyond the media, going beyond what we read, going beyond what we listen to, actually the things in our everyday lives, right? So conversations, what conversations are you involved in? Do the conversations that happen around you point towards Jesus? Do these people shape you instead of God shaping you? Are they pointing you away from God? Are they godly people that build you up? Or are they negative people that have a dark view of the world? Because at the end of the day, it's what's around you and what's real to you that's going to matter even more sometimes than what we're watching. What conversations are you involved in? What people are you spending time with? What are you around? Is what you're around godly, or is what you're around negative and dark and honestly making you feel down on yourself, shaping how you believe things, confusing your mind, confusing what you know about God with other things? Oh no, that's wrong, you shouldn't be thinking like that. These conversations and these people are going to affect us and how we believe in God and our relationship with Jesus. And honestly, it's going to make us go downhill. Your mind becomes what it feeds on. Is your mind feeding on negative? Is your mind feeding on being with people? Is your mind feeding on this? That in the end, it's gonna feed off of those things. Or is your mind feeding on Jesus so that you can reflect and show Jesus' love to people? I don't know if that made sense. But I want to also have this, like, you can't binge the world and expect to crave God. Let that sink in. You can't binge the world, right? It's like binge watching your favorite show. You can't binge the world and then expect to crave God. You can't binge all the worldly things and then expect to go, oh, okay, now that I've done all this, I'm going to just crave God. You need to be binging God. You need to be binging Him and binging on Him and focusing on Him. Romans 12 verse 2 talks about the renewing of your mind. You need to renew your mind. And honestly, further in that, it talks about how our mind affects everything we do. What we think, what we see, what we hear, everything. It affects everything, how we think about ourselves and how we think about our relationship with God. So your mind becomes what it feeds on. You can't binge the world and expect to crave God. So if you guys are struggling in these areas, right, with what you see, what you hear, what you're consuming, 3 simple steps to practically reset your mind and reset your patterns is to replace, don't just remove. So swap out secular music with worship music. Swap out a non-Christian novel with a Christian novel. Swap out a movie with a Christian podcast. Swap out following an influencer that's not a Christian with a Christian influencer. Swap things out. Swap scrolling on your phone for Instagram. Swap that with going on a Bible app and doing a Bible plan. So don't replace, but swap. Figure out what you believe and what you find important and make that your priority. What are you inputting into your life? Is what you believe, which obviously is what I'm talking about here and what most people believe who are watching this, is what you believe in Jesus. And if what you believe in Jesus, and if it is Jesus that you believe in, how are you going to input into that relationship? The same way you input into the needs and desires of wanting to go on social media, the same way you put into the desire of wanting to watch a movie. How are you going to pour in and input into your relationship with God this week? And lastly, spend intentional quiet time with Jesus. When we spend intentional quiet time with Jesus, it shapes our relationship with him and it refreshes our mind to go, this is what I believe in. This is what I need to stand strong in. If we want to feel close to Jesus, we have to be intentional about what we allow to close our minds. If we want to be close to Jesus, we have to be intentional about what we allow close to our minds. We don't want to allow sinful music, sinful shows. That's not going to point us to be closer to Jesus. It's the Bible, it's the worship music, it's the people in our lives that are going to point us closer to Jesus. So I encourage you guys this week, really consider what you're watching and what you're consuming and what you're hearing. And ask yourself the question, is this pointing me closer to God or is it drifting me away? I really hope that this made sense. I felt a bit scattered and all over the place with it, but I really hope that you guys found this helpful and that this can encourage you guys. Make sure to go follow me on my Instagram and send me a DM about a video idea that you want to see, because I'd love to have some opinions from you guys. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching and I hope you have a beautiful week.